This is a show about facing fear, unlocking courage, and taking action.
Courage isn't necessarily a daunting thing.
It's going to give you more purpose. It's going to give you more drive.
It feels like making a courageous decision is going to get you closer to who you aspire to be.
It's knowledge plus faith plus action equals courage.
It's a quote that I keep. It says, go into the world and do well, but more importantly, go into the world and do good. And I think it takes courage to do good. I think it doesn't take a ton of courage to do well in business. I think it takes a lot of courage to do good.
We're just jumping right on in here. And, here we are. It's new year, new you. We've talked about this before, Lauren Teague, which is great to see you. How are you?
Hi, Ryan. I'm so good. Thanks for having me on.
You should be good. I mean, new year, new you is really you, and you've earned it. I mean, you've done some things in your life. You've seen some things in your life.
I
No?
appreciate that. I was in Pittsburgh, right kind of in that break between Christmas and New Year, when most people don't work. Like they're, you see all the memes happening around, like I'm caught in a coma of cheese and I don't know how to get out. Like those things. No, I actually got on a plane to Pittsburgh and I went and did an 8-hour session with a speaker friend of mine named Joe Mole and his team to start their marketing for the new year and get them kind of a jump start. So I have been, he was really nice in reminding me, like, look, like you've been around, like you deserve every penny, and you really need to start taking yourself more seriously. And it's just nice to be reminded of that, to be quite honest, because I don't always give myself that credit. So
Well, I find it odd that that's kind of like one new year, new you. In some ways, there's a lot of still like old year, old you, and old year, old me. Like how we both met. I'm pretty sure we met because we were both doing our thing on a stage. It's probably for Digital Summit, if I remember correctly.
right.
Or I know for a fact, like I knew your name just because of Jay Bear, and we had been working with Jay's team, and we'd been working with you. But then it wasn't until like, oh, wait a minute, Lauren is not just on Jay's team; she's rocking it on stages. And this was, gosh, maybe I want to say 4 or 5 years ago when
Yeah,
we probably
in the old world, in the old
old
world.
year, old us
Yeah.
world. And maybe this is like a really good place to start because it is truly like new year, new you, and you've got like lots of cool new stuff happening. So let's
Yeah.
just start with the new. You have taken the leap. Talk about the leap.
I have taken a big leap. The leap, even though it's new year, I feel like the leap has been at least a year in the making, which is, I think, how most good decisions get made, right? Is to do that. But the TLDR version is I'm giving up my clients and most of my marketing consultancy and the things that I've done for the last 7 or 8 years. And I am launching a brand new business. I'm putting kind of my 15 plus years of experience in digital and social and content and project management. And I'm putting them on the line and then trying to do a startup. So that's the TLDR. I'm going away from consulting and working on other people's businesses and trying to build a new one of my own.
All right, before we get into the actual business, because obviously I'm not going to just let you off the hook and be like, my startup. Well, this concludes the podcast, right? And say, at what point across the last 15 years, because you said it's like, it's been a year really, but before that year, I'm sure there was, just to keep the acronyms going, some WTF moments where you're like, why am I building all these other people's businesses and why am I not building my business? Like, was that the question, or at what point did you ask yourself that thought?
Yeah. As I look back over my career, I seem to fall into some sort of 7-year itch.
Mm,
Thankfully not in my relationships, not with my spouse or my children or anything like that. But in work, if I look at what I've done, I spent 7 seasons at the PGA Tour in about 6.5 years. And then we made a switch where we actively chose to leave Florida and move back across the country to where I'm from, which is in Oregon. And that was to do it on our own terms was pretty powerful. And honestly having to leave a job that I could have stayed in some way, shape, or form. I could have worked for the PGA Tour forever. It was my dream job. So that kind of 7-year itch. So when I got through 7 years of working with Convince and Convert, working with Jay Bear and that fabulous team, working on some of my own clients, expanding into speaking and kind of feeling that out. Well, in those 7 years that I was doing that, I also was raising 3 children. I had 2 of them while I was working with Jay, and got them to a point where that was the dream job of my 30s, essentially. Now I'm kind of coming out of pandemic mode, looking at what's next. I think that's kind of where the WTF of like, hey, I've worked with incredible brands. I have worked with incredible mentors and some of the smartest people in business. And my network is fabulous. And I have a problem that I can't stop thinking about, right? This problem keeps coming up. And I keep looking for a solution that someone else has built. So why not me? And I think that was kind of, maybe it wasn't a WTF, but it was like a why not me? Why couldn't I do this? I also think when you're trying to make that decision of reorienting what your compass, where it goes, what it says, I think you also try to talk yourself out of the decision as much as possible. So I actually, a lot of 2021 mid-year, I got to why not me? And then for 4 to 6 months, like kind of the rest of the year, I was trying to talk myself out of it. Okay, well, what if it fails? What if we had conversations at home about, okay, you can risk this, but not the house. You can risk the car, don't risk the house, like those kinds of things. And really, for me, thinking about what's going to keep me interested. If I build a great company and I could sell it in 5 years, am I going to want to? Like, is that going to feel good? What are some of the other things that I would then end up doing? And so trying to talk myself out of it at every turn. And what I found was I always had the answers. Like the answers keep coming. And I alluded to, like, if you write a book, you get into those stream of conscious. You just write and you write and you write, and it just comes out of you. I've never done that book wise, but it feels that natural to me to go into founder mode or entrepreneurship on this level. So I guess, yeah, scratching that 7-year itch and giving myself the permission to both talk myself out of it and then listen when the answers are always there.
Yeah, I always bounce between why not me, why me, why not me, why me, right? And it's like she loves me not, right? It's the same exact thing. How often did you bring other people into the conversation? Because the little voice is always there, and it's trying to navigate all the madness that happens inside our minds. But did you bring like husband into the mix? You bring mentors into the mix? Where would you go when you needed to have like a vulnerable moment, and who did you rely on?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It was a little bit of all of those things. It was validating, is this a problem for other people? Right? Is this something that is hard for me, or is this hard for more people like me and other people who aren't like me but might have the same problem, and validating that. I alluded to a great network that actually I probably had the team at Convince and Convert in some sort of like monthly team meeting. Probably I was like, oh, this thing, like frustrated, but I think that I could go fix it. And they were the first ones that were like, yeah, no, if anybody's going to fix it, you can build this. And that's a little enlightening. And so it's kind of balancing it off the people who know you the best in different situations, and then some people who know how to build a business. So luckily I had, some of those people in my life, and I have some are family members or in-laws who have been successful in careers or building businesses. So running it by them. What do you see? Who do you know? Do you know someone who might invest in this down the road? Kind of getting all of those answers. But as much as that was at home, right? So like, if I go do this, it takes on a lot of risk. We have a young family. My kids are right now 5, 7, and 9. And luckily my husband has a great stable job that I was like, you can't quit. Like you can't quit and we can't move. So are you good with that? Because, like that probably locks you into that job for 5 more years. So those conversations, and honestly, even conversations with our children. And they were with me last year, late December, when I signed the incorporation papers. I took them partly out of because they were out of school and I had no childcare and I needed to take them with me to go to the lawyer's office, but also because I wanted them there. I want them with me at every step of the way. My parents were entrepreneurs. They worked for themselves on farms and in agriculture. But at the same, I was invested in their business because I was part of it, because I was out there working, growing up, so that was part of that. If I can teach my kids and pass on work ethic and responsibility by having them help me in this new company that we are building, then I think that that's a way for me to transfer some of those things that were instilled in me at a young age. So I talk to lots of people.
I'm, like what I'm most passionate about. I mean, I love courage, obviously, right? But like, what shock? Because the guy that is a step and repeat, it says courage boot camp behind me. But what I really love more than anything is story. I just love a good story and have studied story. And my three sort of, if you like, made a cocktail of how I like to make a story. Where I really learned, one was Joseph Campbell, Hero's Journey. This is probably not new news for most people. If it's new news, Google Joseph Campbell. This is the Star Wars movies. The second is a guy named Robert McKee, and he wrote a 3,000 page book. That's what it felt like, called Story. For those of you who've seen Adaptation, the movie, Meryl Streep, Kaufman Brothers go to his big booming sort of auditorium and get reamed at by McKee. Now that's McKee style. And number three is probably the one that LA knows, but no one else knows, which is a guy named Blake Snyder. He wrote the movie Blank Check. Uh, and that whole, like, if you can't teach. I mean, he clearly sold stuff, but like he's known for just deconstructing stories. And like his book is called Save the Cat, because the idea is that on page 5 of every great script, minute 5, because it's a minute a page, is a save the cat moment where you want to follow the main character. I've spent my $20. I will now go wherever Lauren goes, and I will root for Lauren everywhere she goes. So it's called Save the Cat. Great book. Blake also talks about this concept called "Watch out for that glacier," which means get to the damn point already. All right. So, Lauren, what's the startup?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, buried the lead there. The
No, I
startup.
don't think this was on you. I'm thinking this is on me. Because there's so much to talk about with Convince and Convert and other things, and you're an expert in so much. But give me let's talk about the actual startup.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So the startup is called FanWagn, and it's actually spelled FANWAGN. One, because I could get that domain when I was looking for it, and also I'm a child of, or I came up during the kind of mid 2000s, and we used to joke at the PGA Tour that every time I brought a vendor in, like a sprinkler or et cetera, like nobody actually had vowels in their name, so it's also just a nod to kind of that early years in my career. So FanWagn, no O at the end. FanWagn is the secondhand or resale marketplace built for fans by fans, where we're helping discover and buy and sell your favorite fan apparel from your favorite sports teams.
Love it.
So, everybody has, maybe everybody is a stretch, but most people in my world have at least one college sweatshirt, team hat, even if you got it from somebody else, right? You've got a team hat, some sort of sweatshirt, a soccer scarf. If you're my husband, you get a new hat every time you go to a Dallas Stars game. We have been together for almost 15 years. So you can imagine how many green, black, white, gray, Dallas Star logoed hats he has in his closet that, like, honestly, you can't wear them all. And I know, like, I'm a huge customer of Fanatics. I love team gear. I've grown up in sports. And what I realized was, we do have a sustainable fashion problem. And there's nothing cooler to me than walking into a stadium or an arena, or a pitch with 20,000 of my favorite people, like all dressed to the nines in our gear and the new jerseys. But what happens to the stuff that's been in our closet our society tends to throw things away at Goodwill, and there really can be other uses for that. And yeah, I came at it because my kids grow very quickly out of things. As you probably know, it feels like every month you're in their closets when they're young, pulling things out that don't fit anymore. So once we made it through, the 2T size, and I have a stack of Masters polos and I have a stack of Dallas Stars jerseys, and I live in Portland, Oregon, I can't give that stuff away. Nobody cares. But the mom in Georgia, she'll pay me $30 a piece for those polos. So how do I find the mom in Georgia? Well, there's no one else who's doing that. So yeah, after like 4 years of that, then I just decided like, okay, you can go build that.
First of all, I just can't believe that there's not other Dallas hockey fans in Portland. This is a big surprise here on the show.
Well, now there's a lot of Kraken fans. So because Seattle's right up the road, which is fine. They're our backup team. It's fine.
So first of all, it's a great idea. I got to ask, how much was the asking price for FanWagn with an GON.com?
That's a good question. I don't know if I looked at that one. I did look at wagon.com because I would be fine with like that piece of it too. Wagon.com was $25,000. And I'm bootstrapping. I can build a really good website for $25,000 with a $50 domain. So I'm okay with that.
All right. So here's the question. One, as you think back through all of your experiences, right? Because you've got sports, you've got looking under the hood of businesses, you understand digital, you understand social, you understand fandom. Maybe I'm just doing the answer for you, but like, walk me through how it equates to it's time for me to launch FanWagn, why you're the perfect person to do it.
Yeah, I think after year 4 of not finding a place to put these things, and like, oh, there's going to be something, I'm just going to shove it to the back of the closet. And year after year of that, not finding someone else doing this. And then probably a combination of the pandemic. Things, like for most people, things changed for me. We had great years in consulting over the pandemic. So it's not that I needed a new job. It was actually that I had the resources to take the risk. And so I think that is also, it's kind of how I got into speaking. I was getting speaking opportunities. I was getting asked to go places and give talks. And I realized like I was making money doing it, and I realized I needed to be better at it. So I took the money that I was making and reinvested it into really good training so that I could leverage that for the next 50 years. I was at a place where I had a problem, a solution, and the resources on my own to at least start to attack that problem. And so that kind of became the like, why not me, right? And there's plenty that I have said yes to in the past, and there's a lot that I have to now like change that and mindset and say no to things now to make space for FanWagn and to get into that. And I think that has been a little bit hard and risky, um and honestly it's just maybe not having time for the same events or activities or people that you had that you had time for even 3 or 5 years ago. That's not comfortable for me, but that's something that now I'm, the why not has become like, there I have a thing, I have a light, and I'm moving everything that I can towards that light to make it work.
I mean, it's such a good idea. All right, as an idea guy, I love the idea, because it's all about passion and like, look, like you said, like, what does it take to make a fan, right? If I'm a fan, like, I can't quit being a fan of some of my teams. I wish I could. I wish I could. As someone that grew up in the DC area, I cannot quit name changes that have happened that I don't totally buy in on. The fact that I have to sit here and call the Washington Wizards the Wizards or the Washington Commanders the Commanders, two names that I'm not a fan of, frankly, but I am a fan. It's in my blood because of nostalgia, because I'm a sports fan, because there's some true love. So just the idea of creating this marketplace where fans can connect and trade and find the thing that they just absolutely have to have is an amazing idea. And clearly missing in the market. So let's just say for 1 minute, and I wonder if you can play with me for a second here. We're gonna play.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's say unemotionally, because it has to be now unemotional, right? That FanWagn is not, you're not the owner of FanWagn. You're not the founder. In fact, they're going to be a client of yours. So unemotionally, you need to now look at FanWagn as if you were back in old you, old year, old you, not new year, new you. As you sit down the FanWagn and you've done your audit, you've done your research. I'm trying to also give you time to think through, like, what could, as you look at the brand unemotionally, of course.
Yeah.
What are the three things, major things you're like, okay, listen, client who's going to pay me, right? 1, 2, and 3, we absolutely have to knock these out. Where do you start?
So unemotionally, but also very familiar with the brand and the marketing. I would say, so one thing I know to be true and I've been advised on is that in a multi-seller marketplace, it's literally the hardest business to build. Because you need the buyer and you need the seller and you need them simultaneously. And it's a chicken or egg question. Do you have to go get demand to convince someone to list 1,000 products with you? Do you need, how do you get the inventory and the attention or the demand at the same time? So you're actually serving two very distinct audiences with one brand. And so that means that in my first 10 hires, I need both a seller concierge and a buyer support person. I need someone who is focused not just on buyer acquisition, but like helping them through the purchase. I need seller concierge who is willing to stand up people's shops for them from the beginning and kind of handhold certain people to get on the platform and make those concessions. So I think the first one is really paying attention to both sides of that marketplace and making sure the user experience of that is appropriate for both. I've been in a ton of reseller groups just listening for 18 months, listening to them bitch about Poshmark and Mercari and eBay and the changes that are being made on these platforms. Then the sellers don't see themselves represented in the changes. So being able to do that, I just had a conversation for my own podcast with my buddy Jake McKee, and he has been a community professional for 20 years. And he was talking about customer translators as the role for community management professionals. And I was like, that is the perfect word for it. So being able to like dial into that. Let's see, you asked for 3. Another one would be, I'm really driven to use data for good. So in that, I think a lot of people would like to use data for good, but they don't know what to get. They don't know how to store it. They don't know how to use it necessarily. And I think if you're going to ask somebody for data, like, for example, what's your favorite teams? What cut of a shirt or style do you like? Are you going to wear the red? Are you going to wear the white or the black? Like those things. If I'm going to ask questions like that of my audience or my customer base, then I need to be able to deliver something based on that. So I think that like leveraging data really well, both in like what you ask for and then how you return value back to the user is really, really important. And then I think the third thing that I would say is really know, and I talk to my clients about this all the time, but really know what your brand stands for. Because we know that, the majority of people will buy more and be more aligned, more loyal to a brand that is aligned with their values, which means they have to identify what the brand's values are. So one of the first things that I wrote as a founder, again, when I was trying to talk myself out of doing this, was if I have to build a company, it's not just a product, right? I'm not just building a website. Because if I do it right, it becomes a huge company. If I'm building a company, what is the culture of that company? Because now I'm not just responsible for transactions on a website. I'm responsible for building the company. And that's a mind shift for me that I do that on a very small scale, right? Now, but I'm preparing myself to do that larger. So do you know what the brand stands for? And can everybody else like articulate that? Right. And can we make decisions based on brand values that include accessibility, inclusivity, that sports are for everybody. So we're not going to go in with, we're getting away from gendered apparel. We're getting away from fit is like adult small, like let's be specific and let people just decide for themselves what they want. So that's more of what the founders had on, but hopefully that, I think also because I've worked this through as the consultant, that
Right.
hopefully that feels okay.
Is there, I mean, how does the word fan play in all this? Like, what does it mean? Look, I've seen this. I could see you answering it two very different ways, and I don't want to take words out of your mouth, but like, we believe, I could see that. I could see a company line that we believe everyone can unleash the power of being a fan. Or is it more the, hey, you know what I mean? When you finally like identify yourself as a fan, the magic happens. And again, we want people to be a fan before they really turn to us. It's not that it's asking people not to join us. We're not like sending
Yeah.
people away, but the idea that you're a fan, which like I said, I am a fan. My son, he's a fan of the food when we go to a game,
Sure.
but I wouldn't say he's like a fan. Like, how do you define fan in this environment?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. On the site right now, I think if like on the mock-ups that we have or on the prototype that I have right now, it says at FanWagn, we believe we are what we wear.
Cool.
So it's actually, if you remove sport from it, when I was doing some work with Tamsin Webster last year on the red thread of the idea, because she's fabulous, we settled, or we identified, we came across the phrase, we are the site for identity apparel, right? Because we are what we wear. That was the truth of the red thread. And I do believe that. I am the kind of person that probably overinvested in RBG collared t-shirts, and I have a whole section in my drawer that is I have WNBA t-shirts that say bet on women, or that the W stands for like anti-gun violence. I have the RBGs, I have the pride shirts, I got it all, right? I got to the point where this summer I had to edit what I was wearing, like what I was choosing to wear, when I knew I was going to family picnics with little old aunties, right? Like, meh, I don't need to like cause a stir at the family picnic. I'm just going to choose a different t-shirt. But I actually now have to edit clothing. I told you I picked the jersey that I'm wearing today because I knew you would identify with it. And so it's, that part is interesting. So it's less about
Hold
how
on.
deep your
You
fandom is.
now you gotta explain the jersey. You can't
Oh yeah,
just,
I forgot. This isn't a video show.
yeah.
Well, we're on video. Everybody else can't see it. So earlier this year, when Nike released the World Cup unis or the kits for all the teams, the US didn't have maybe like the most attractive version for a lot of the fans. It was fine. It looked fine on TV. Most of the fans not super happy with the Nike designs for the USA kits for World Cup this year. So instantly on Twitter, people were talking about like alternate designs. Here's something I made. Da, da, da. There was a company out of New York that manufactures jerseys that picked up some of these designs, and I think started working with some artists, and they released like alternates. So I'm wearing an Olive in New York, the Stars version. So it's a navy blue jersey shirt with red piping on the sleeves and on the collar, and it has 50 some, I think it's 50 or 52 white stars, and it has a similar to the US soccer crest on the chest. So it's actually like, it's a great shirt. It's a soccer shirt, but I could also wear it for lots of USA go team, go states stuff. So I can post a picture of it on my Twitter account.
Yeah, well, I think it's cool that first of all, I appreciate that you wore it. You know, again, I'm taking your words. This isn't like I'm so vain. Like you said, you wore it because you knew I'd identify with it, which I do. But I also love that idea of we are what we wear. Like you're wearing it because you identify with it. And,
Yeah.
And so I'd love to hear just like, where's the site right now? How can we help? What do you need us to do? We're in. We're all for courageous brands here, right? And you're a courage brand.
Thank you. It's actually, that is a big part of, one of my mottos. Well, it's back here on my desk. I think you can see it. I read it to you. Something that I've had probably since college. says, it's a quote that I keep. It says, "Go into the world and do well, but more importantly, go into the world and do good." And I think it takes courage to do good. I think it doesn't take a ton of courage to do well in business. I think it takes a lot of courage to do good. And so that is, again, when I'm trying to talk myself out of, moving away from safety and moving into something that's risky and something I haven't done before, when you're trying to talk yourself out of that, and then you get the idea that, oh, I could build a company in my image of what I think that business should represent and how it could be. Okay, well, what aligns with that? Well, B Corp standards fits, right? 1% companies fit with how I feel like business can be done. Having some sort of like, shared profits and rewarding your employees and keeping that. I'm not building this company. I want to build a company that Michael Rubin wants to buy and can't buy. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally.
Like I would love to align with Michael Rubin. I think I admire a lot of what he does, and he just made a ton of money for M&As, and I want to be a company he wants to buy, but I won't. But he might not get, And I was like, okay, so those things are, where like small acts of courage. Now it might be different if you're sitting in a boardroom and someone's throwing a lot of zeros in your face, and hopefully I get there. But I also think that I'd like to build a company that is in my image of what I think a company in 2023 and beyond should look like in the world. And I don't have anything to lose.
One, it's sort of sad that making a courageous business, which is an act of good, is the reality. Like really, like, and honestly, I always, I mean, I've been interviewing. We're almost at 100 interviews for the podcast. I don't know. Jay probably has like 20,000 interviews. Jay Bear, but like for me, as an observationalist, and I've said this before on the show, but like it's also really, really sad that telling the truth is now an act of courage, and people are so afraid to tell the truth, especially in corporate environments, right? So, what I love about what you're setting up is you're just trying to be really thoughtful and intentional about what you believe in and put that bat signal out into the world so that other people that believe in those things can come help you build this. So one more ask again is like, where do you need help? How do we help?
Okay. Well, fanwagn.com is in development. We are active on Instagram, on TikTok, and Twitter, at least for the short time being, at FanWagn. So that's FANWAGN. I'm actually looking right now for people who have inventory, people who are ready to clean out their closet or have a pile of team apparel, that they're planning to get rid of. I'm looking specifically for people who have at least 50 items, and who are willing to let us help them list them. That's the first go. And once we do some user testing and debugging, I actually had a meeting with my developers like immediately before this recording. So we know that the MVP of the very first version of what FanWagn's marketplace will be, it will be ready probably by March Madness is kind of my goal. So maybe not Super Bowl, but probably by March Madness. So we're going to bring some sellers on. So if you know somebody, if you have a favorite vintage shop that doesn't want to do e-commerce or doesn't like to do e-commerce, we're trying to be an alternative for that, as well, so that vintage resellers can jump on and do a little bit different. Or if you've got lots of stuff and you're cleaning out your closet, I'm looking for sellers first. And then, I think the buyers will come once we have some really cool stuff. I think it's going to be a fun place to browse. It's going to be a fun place to discover, and until we find the thing that is exactly what you're looking for. So it's coming fast and furious, and I can't wait.
All right, just to be really clear with the listener, one, I have zero stake in this company. Okay, like I don't want people to think. I mean, we just had like Ed Romaine from Bleacher Report on House Highlights, and I will connect you guys because I just think you just never know. Okay, but
Yep.
I want the audience to know, like, I root for you. It's not like this is like some shameless promotion where I own 10% of the business and we're going to start putting FanWagn on here. Um, for those people who do have an idea for you
Mhm.
and want to email you,
Mhm.
what's the best way to find you?
LAUREN@fanwagon.com.
Okay. And finally, and this will be new for the podcast, because usually like we bring somebody on, like I think I've only had one other guest on twice, which was Landon Donovan. Maybe I've had, no, Nahani Jones is another one,
Okay.
but
Good company.
not bad. But I would love to invite you back on in 6 months from now. And
Okay.
maybe as you continue to grow this, we can just have you come in and talk about what you've learned. And look, it's a show about courage. So there's this famous line, if fear and courage are kin, you can't get to one without the others. And so maybe where we'll end is, what are you afraid of? Like, where's the fear? And
Mhm.
then, well, let's just start with that. Like, what are you afraid of?
Oh, I'm afraid of failing.
That's it?
I'm afraid of tripping hard on my face and having to pick myself back up. I'm an Enneagram 8. So there's something about the loss of power or being confronted with that's something that it feels uncomfortable to me that would be. But as a professional speaker, if I fail epically, I got great stories to tell on stage. So the backup plan is fail epically, just turn it into a good talk, right? And be able to do that. So I mean, it's a pretty good backup plan.
I mean, the irony is that we started at New Year, New You, and the backup plan is Old Year, Old You, right?
Yeah,
I think
old you, new stories.
this is not a new, a new problem. I think a lot of us feel like we don't want to go back to our old lives, and we do what we do to like stay in our new life. I'm madly passionate about what I do. I know you are too. You have a new fan, pun fully intended, rooting for you, and I'm sure you've got lots of fans who are listening. And courageously, give me one sort of like the next big courageous move you need to make this business go the way you want it to go. And it might not be, it might be raising money. I don't know. It could be 2 years down the line. Like, but what do you think it is?
Yeah, I think the courageous moves I need to make are to pick up the phone and contact people in my network or that I've worked with in the past and kind of cash in the chips, right? I think and I say that's courageous because I'm not the kind of person that's brash enough to go like to feel like, oh, I can just knock on any door. Like relationships take a little work. So I need to kind of go humbly and say, like, but I need some strategic partnerships with teams and leagues and college programs who are willing to give me a little bit of like freedom with a brand mark or get in front of that. So that's one of them, is just the courage to really ask for the things that I need this year. And then I think the courage, to go ask for money and the investment piece of it. So it's bootstrapped. I've got a runway in my other business where I've saved enough money that I don't necessarily have to take a salary yet, but I got to go get money so I can keep the people that I've hired working and that we can continue to iterate. So those are kind of like the two pieces that I'm not super comfortable with all the time. But I mean, as far as like working my network, I love those people. It's just, making the ask when for so long I've been coming at them from a place of help or like not help of I'm helping them, I'm supporting them. And then to kind of turn those tables and say, you know what? I do have. It's actually why I'm launching my new podcast, The Brand of Fan Show. And Ryan, you and I have talked about that and what it takes to launch the podcast and things. But that's a way for me to reach out to my network, give them something of value from me, but also say like, hey, I got this thing over here. So the Brand of Fan Show is talking all about the phenomenon of fandom and how marketing can leverage that, right, to build fans for their future. But it's presented by FanWagn. They work hand in hand. So that's kind of, those are the things. Is it's not super comfortable for me to go ask for help, but I got to go do it.
Sounds like marketing. Not that it's a bad thing. No, it's not like, it just sounds like it's a good fit. It makes total sense
Sure.
on why you would do it. All right. This is not simply thanks for coming on the show. This is, I'll see you in about 6 months. right? And
Okay.
hopefully I see it sooner, by the way, but
Oh
like,
yeah.
but I'm really excited for what you're building. And I, I wouldn't say it like, go back to like telling the truth as an act of courage. I actually think it's a huge opportunity. It's going to be really fun watching you build it. And I know it's probably daunting and exhausting and exciting and all those things. And it's one step in front of the other, but however I can help and however we can help, and we'll see you back here in a few months. Deal?
All right, you're on. And in the meantime, if you have a good couple of vintage shops there down there in San Diego, I'll fly in and shop for a day and talk to some store
All
owners.
right,
So
cool. Yeah,
let's go do it.
we got some spots, and I'm also
Okay.
thinking about like sports memorabilia. Like, there's so many.
Mm-mm, mm-mm,
Staying away from it.
mm-mm. Oh, it's so hard to authenticate autographs and memorabilia. So we're going hats or head to knees, just apparel. If it's
Okay.
autographed, I don't care. But I don't have the resources to build the AI tool to authenticate signatures at scale. You know, like just like there's certain platforms, Depop and Poshmark and the Real. They literally have warehouses where they authenticate merchandise. Even Dote has to authenticate sneakers. That is just not something I want to deal with yet. So there's a lot of other ways to expand it, and that is not one that I'm super excited about. But who knows? If that's what you guys want to use the platform for, then we'll figure that out pretty quickly.
Spoken like a true listener, and give the fan what they need, what they want, right? All right, Lauren Teague, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Happy New Year, New You. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Courageous Podcast. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts so more people can find us. See you again next week.